What's the motherfucking deal, man? Welcome to the Den. I'm your host, Ed Honcho. Thank you for joining me today or tonight, whenever you catch this. Make sure you join us live every night, 10 p.m. Central, and Monday through Friday every day, 10 a.m. Central. You can call in, share your thoughts on whatever topics of the day, whatever's on your mind. Call in and share with the Den folk. We definitely enjoy hearing your opinions. I'm not gonna beat around the bush. You'll see all the social medias and everything, throughout the video at the bottom of the screen. So I appreciate, if you like, subscribe, follow. If you enjoy the content, make sure you hit that like button. If let YouTube know that you enjoy what's going on, so they can get pushed out to other people. But let's kind of get into this. And about an hour or so ago, an interview was released with Brittany Bowens, and as much as I check myself. I try to be self-aware, and I try to look at people. I'm not being overly judgmental when I look at people. From the very beginning of this case, looking at Brittany Bowens, I've always had this vibe. I think people have a sixth sense. I think people are able to interpret bad energy or when something's just not right, however you feel, however you identify it. But I do believe people have that in them, that ability. Some people kind of lose touch with it, but I think most people can tell. And there's a reason that the general consensus in this case is that Brittany Bowens is at the very least negligent, but most people believe that she had some hand or some involvement in this. So we're going to share a couple of articles. I'm going to talk about the interview. I'm going to talk about some other information that has come out. If you don't know, which you by now, if you've been keeping up with this case, the remains were identified yesterday, and I didn't want to just talk about that. I honestly tried to avoid nitpicking on everything about this case. It's not about that. It's really about finding out pertinent information. I think we all knew that for a guy to be sitting in Harris County and give you an exact location in Arkansas, and you find that bag. I think that already told us what most of us feared, but most of us probably realized after it had been about a month or so, after it had been several weeks. So I took some notes as I watched. I'm not going to show the actual interview here, but I'll put the links in the description below for every article I share and the interview, and it'll be marked so you can identify it. But if you don't know, the Den is social commentary from a realistic perspective. So if you're coming here for straight, unopinionated news, this is not what you're going to get. You're going to get my opinions. You're going to get how I feel, and I want to know your opinion. So please leave them in the comment section below, because I truly am interested in knowing how you feel, and I'll try to reply to every comment I can. Over the last few days, there's been a whole bunch of them I haven't been able to get to, but I will. If I read it, I try to leave you the little heart thing for an acknowledgement, because I appreciate you taking the time to watch these videos and taking your time to share your thoughts. After watching this interview, I feel like Brittany Bowens is a fucking fraud. Like when it comes down to everything, I just can't believe anything that comes out of her mouth. The way she does little things during this interview is very questionable. It makes me question everything and her involvement. This is the first interview where I've actually heard her say Maleah's name a significant number of times, multiple times. Any time before this, it's always been the baby or her, or just it's never saying her name. And that makes me think that, especially after that interview, or not interview, but the live she did the other day, and it covered that and kind of broke that down, that she's aware of what's being said out there in social media. And I think she's also or not also, but maybe slightly self-aware. I don't think she's an idiot. Negligent, yes, but an idiot, I don't think she's that stupid. And so she's probably picking up on things that the people are saying. She's watching people's videos and what they're saying about her and why they don't trust her. And now that she's doing this PR tour again, she's trying to fix those little things. So to me, she's trying a little too hard. If you pay real close attention, so I want you to watch the interview after this video if you get a chance, and tell me if you noticed that, and definitely come back and let me know your comments if you haven't seen it already. But I do believe she's a fucking fraud. Every question she asks, she takes a long pause. She starts off the interview talking fine. There's no anything going on, and then all of a sudden, eventually about halfway through, the crocodile tears start coming. She forces herself hard enough to get a couple of little strained tears out. But a couple of questions that were asked, little notes to me. The voice kind of quaked in and out. I don't really think she was just disheartened, but let's see. She said that it was numbing. That's why she doesn't feel anything. She was sad, distraught, can't explain. The words don't exist to explain. When you start to become numb, what do when you can't feel? To me, that makes no sense. Again, a mother should always feel her child's pain, and I can understand knowing my mother when she personally lost a child, my sister when I was a little bit younger, and things like that. I look at that situation and I look at this situation. That's making me my own personal comparison. And not everybody grieves the same. I'm well aware of that. But a loving mother has a way about her. So many women have left comments, called, and left voicemails, and that's something that I've noticed a lot of women say, that a loving mother does not have the tendencies that Brittany has. Let me actually open this up so we can see the article itself. And we're going to scroll down the article that has to do with this, but this is where the interview was. It's about a 15-minute interview. She talked about, how do you remember Maleah? She says, it's a reminder, or all the outpouring from the community is a reminder of how Maleah was loved. Yeah, by everybody else but you. Because no loving mother would have left her daughter in a situation where she thought, it was bad for her. And a lot of misinformation here and there. But how she was loved, but that you consistently had CPS cases open dealing with this situation. She talked about how much she loved everything. She said it was beautiful, it's amazing to know how others feel. Too bad, you didn't feel the same way. They asked her, what was it like being Maleah's mother? And she gave probably the most generic, nonsensical answer to me. I had her. Well, obviously, you'd have to have her to be her mother, correct? She was sent to me. I would tell her that she's my favorite daughter. Your only daughter. And she says that too. And so it was such a foolish statement to me that it just didn't make any sense. She talked about wanting to see her develop and become a woman and all of these things. They asked her, well, what would she like to find out? She'd like to get justice. She'd like to get truth. Yet has never said anything negative about Darion. She has never mentioned, she doesn't really say his name. And that's why I think she pauses to calculate what she's going to say before every question. Or sometimes she repeats the question and then, decides to say what she calculated the way she operates. She said justice, truth, not some narrative being pushed by someone else. That tells you that she doesn't want to believe, or she knows something other, that she's not in support of what's going on. So that tells you she still has not left by Darion's side. She's still supporting him 100%, or as much as she can without looking a particular way in the public eye, because trust me, she is very well aware of how she looks in the public eye. She mentions it several times. Talks about, in the past months I've had to fight so hard to get my children back. Again, and there's been situations where that's not necessarily indicative of that you're a bad mom. But if you've had multiple cases with dealing with CPS repeatedly, when she fell and she was having seizures, vomiting blood, this doesn't sound very loving. Or you may have been loving, but you were more loving on someone else if you were allowing them to beat on her, hit on her, if it wasn't you, but I do believe it was Brittany personally. When your child is having seizures and you're just laying there deciding whether or not they need to go to the hospital, and it takes the child's grandmother coming home and saying, hey, you need to take this child to the hospital. A loving mother knows when their child is in danger, when their child is in harm's way, and they get them out of that at their own expense. She says she wants to find out what happened to Maleah. She says that what they asked her about, what she was as a mother, she said she's a fighter. She fought as a mother. She's fighting hard to make sure the kids got their needs met. Well, if you look at some of these other interviews that have been done from Darion's dad, Darion was the only one working. He was taking care of all the kids. He was raising the kids. There were some pictures that were released from social media the other day by Brittany herself. And in those pictures, you don't really see Brittany with Maleah. You see Darion holding Maleah at a birthday cake and things like that. So that goes to tell me that I feel like she's lying. That, she can claim that, I didn't have all these old pictures. They were in my other phone. But now all of a sudden you have old pictures, right? A lot of questionable things that have been going on, being said and being done around this case that make it very hard to believe that Brittany Bowens is genuine. And I don't believe that. I'd like to know what you think. Maybe you see it differently, but I do not believe in any form, fashion, way, manner at all that she's being genuine, that she's being honest. And I think justice needs to be served, and I think she needs to be held, at the very least, negligent of that child. But she said she's fighting to be a mother, fighting to get their needs met. So the interviewer asked her, what would she like the world to know? What she says is, I will not react or give energy to criticism or opinions from others. Okay, well, you don't have to, but yet you did, right? That's why you gave that terrible ghetto-ass live that you did with two women who said they don't even really know you like that. So you just allowed them, and you out there getting high and you're getting all excited about talking about riding dick. So obviously, something's on your mind. Something gets you excited. This should be about Maleah, not anyone else. And don't ever take that from her. Don't ever take that from Maleah. But yet you hardly ever said her name. Any interview prior to this, if you watch Brittany Bowens, it's all about her. It's never about Maleah. She barely says the child's name. It's always in some kind of how she's getting harassed or oppressed or something bad about it. It always ties in to her and not to who the focus should have been on, as she's saying, which is Maleah. So I find that very interesting. And again, like I said, to me, I think she's been scanning these sites because the bag was supposedly, I think that information was Thursday or Friday, and I don't have a timeline in front of me, but I want to say it was Thursday or Friday, I believe Friday, where they went out and went to Arkansas, brought the bag back. They, matched the DNA, and that was released Monday. And now she has something to say. I'm sure she knew about some things, and she's been taking those 4 or 5 days to prep and prepare and put on this act. That's just how I feel. I may be completely wrong. And like I said, if it all comes out and Brittany had nothing to do with it, she's complete, I will recant all my statements. But for now, I genuinely feel that she has had a hand in this, and she's been more aware of the information pertaining to this case than she wants to share. Quanah Alexis said that he shared some things with the DA, I believe, that kind of may implicate her negligence. So we'll see how that pans out. A couple other things, and then I want to look at 2 or 3 other articles that I want to get to. I don't want to make this video too long. They asked her, well, how would you describe Maleah? She said Maleah was very nurturing, a child with an old soul, very resilient. She always bounced back. She said that she believed Maleah had strength that she didn't possess herself. And I believe that because I think you were a weak woman that, put your needs ahead of your kids, and she talked about how she fought for everything to get her kids, but she didn't work for years. She lived off Darion. He took care of the kids. I mean, her sister said that, his dad said that, multiple interviews. There's a reason why the grandmother stepped back from this case. I mean, there's too many things that say that these are lies, but she's painting a picture when you have the platform to do it, you can spread the word so much further than, other sources or other YouTube channels that I've seen a lot of, and a lot of people have been doing very good work pertaining to this case. And she said Maleah would always make sure were you okay or were you needed. And so that makes me question something. So we talk about when she came home, and she was there on the 30th, Maleah comes home. Apparently they got into a big fight right before she left to the airport, but she said she didn't know Maleah was there. If you're getting into a big fight and a child who is very caring and nurturing, you think they're just going to sit in the room being quiet. We already addressed that there's no way a 4-year-old's just being quiet. So you knew that she was there, if she was there, which she was. And if you're fighting, that child's going to come out and try to stop the fight or try to, alleviate the situation the best way they know how. So she was well aware that that child was there. That's not the only reason she knows, but there's definitely. They asked her about her motherhood towards Maleah. And I'm trying to read my notes. My handwriting is bad, so I apologize. She talked about, she took one of her children, said that she took care of her children. They had all that they could need. She was always selfless. She took care of her child. She took care of her sons and her daughter. It was never about Brittany, which is a lie. Every day she made sure to tell them they loved them. Some kids don't even have that. She had peace knowing that she told them that daily. It's unfortunate, and that's the notes I took. We're going to kind of scan this article and do some other things. But I don't believe that. I believe she relied on Darion. The sister even said that Darion was a godsend because he took care of everything. So she wasn't fighting anything if she was laid up on the couch. She wasn't, to me, I don't care how many times you tell them you love them to make them feel a certain way. If your behavior says different, there's a lot of people who've gone through abuse and been told that it's love and don't understand the difference. I just believe this woman is fraudulent. I believe she's trash, and I believe she had some type of hand in this situation. She knows a lot more than she's willing to share. So it's going to be very interesting to see what the outcome is. I'm expecting things to happen very soon. We're going to address what's going to happen with charges. We're going to address what's going to happen with the reward money in the next couple of articles. I want to just kind of scan this so you can kind of see what it's saying, and we'll go there. Says the reality of her daughter's death set near Brittany Bowens, mother of 4-year-old Maleah, talk exclusively with ABC 13 Eyewitness News out here in Houston. Medical examiner Harris County identified the remains on the Arkansas roadside of the little girl who had been missing for a month. found in a garbage bag discovered by a landscaping crew, and we know that a lawnmower hit that bag, so the remains were discovered. To me, it was disrespect and even death, and that's the thing that I think that hurts me the most with this whole case. We knew wherever the body was that it was going to be deteriorating, but it's like insult upon injury. And, injury is being death. And then even after death, it's just like the remains get discarded. It's a terrible fucking feeling. That child never deserved that. If you've seen pictures of this child, she seems so loving. I didn't know her personally. And most of us didn't know her personally, but it's almost like we adopted her as we, learn more and more about this story. Said that's the moment that really hit. It was her in that bag sitting along the street. She says that. Says, not fair at all. I just don't understand this. It's not fair because she didn't deserve that. So the interview Tuesday, which is today at the recording of this, is a month after Bowen's former fiance Darren first reported the girl missing. So it's been 1 month exactly since that happened. I believe May 4th is when they reported missing, but they said all that stuff happened on the 3rd. It changed multiple times. I feel like her story has not been necessarily super consistent either. But the information on May 31st, where Cornell X got out of Vince at the jailhouse, and just hours after that, they located the missing bag. So that's kind of brief. Like I said, I'll post a link to this so you can check that out for yourself. But let's talk about what's next in the Maleah Davis case. And just want to run over a couple of notes. I'm going to skip the top part, but they asked, a legal analyst what he says. He says, we're going to see the Harris County District Attorney upgrade the charge of this case against Mr. Vince from tampering with evidence to capital murder, right? That he knowingly and intentionally caused the death of a child less than 10. And that it carries only 2 punishments, life without parole or the ultimate punishment, the death penalty. And I think with the notoriety that this case has gotten, I would not be surprised to see Texas push for the death penalty. And I think that that's going to get some certain confessions out of him. I think that you're going to hear some things pertaining to this story. I think you're going to get the truth out of them when that happens. They asked, well, is Cornell X's information being used? And that's very interesting. I've seen a lot of people ask that. Every criminal case from the simplest no-test DWI to a complicated capital murder has at least one stumbling block. In this case, the defense is going to move to exclude from evidence the statement that Mr. Vince allegedly made to Cornell X, leading investigators to the body. And that's going to be interesting because that led directly to what people were looking for, and that was Maleah. So it's going to be very interesting to see how that has an impact on the overall case. So this case is going to remain pertinent, and it's going to be national news. I think everybody who's been following this case will definitely be on top of it. Where will the trial take place? Because new charges are being filed in this case will be assigned to a different court, different counsel will be assigned because it's capital murder. Only the best of the best in the ranks of the Harris County Criminal Defense are permitted to try that capital murder cases. Now, capital murder is really interesting because, look, I'm no angel. I've been to Harris County, and I know how it was a guy while I was sitting there, and he was saying, he was facing a capital murder charge, and it puts things into a different perspective. There's no numbers on a capital murder case. It's life or death. That's it. And I think when a person is faced with that, they're going to start to waver. Now, I don't know about his defense and what's going to happen legally, but it's going to be very interesting. He said, well, why is this case so important? That's because the judge who appoints 2 or perhaps even 3 lawyers in this case wants to make sure that there's no place for rookies in Game 7 of the World 7 Series, because that's what this case is. Not just to the defendant, but more importantly to the victim's family, and the citizens of Harris County. And so it goes on to share a timeline. Again, I'll put this link below, so you can check that out for yourself if you want to read it in the fine details. A couple of little articles, like I said, we're just going to run over them briefly because I just want to keep you guys updated and just, have all the information. And then again, all the links will be in the description so you can check it out. Just some little side notes. But now this is very disturbing because Cornell came out and he said that one of Darian Vince's family members knew where, because that's no longer knows, it's new, where Maleah's body was dumped. So what he has talked to with the proper authorities is going to be very intriguing. It's going to be very intriguing to see. I think there will be more names picked up in this case. So again, let me bring that article up for you. And since one of Darian Vince's family members knew where Maleah's body was dumped, so far Darian Vince hasn't been charged with murder, and no one else is facing charges. His grief is coming at the front door, says Houston, Texas babies. They're basically talking to some of the people who were at the memorial. And Maleah's mom talked about the memorial, and that's what she was saying. Well, it's good to know how much she was loved. Too bad, I don't feel like she gave her that same love that the city has outpoured. People around the world have poured out. I've seen people from, UK and Canada and all over the place, South Africa, and people who are tuned into this case. And it's sad that people care that much more than the mother. And it's really disgusting. Not sad, it's fucking disgusting. But I kind of want to get to what Quanell X said, said a message of love from children and adults, many prayers for your answers. But says, I know what she went through, the torturous abuse. It's too hard to go back there right now, said Quanell X. Says not mentally ready to see the apartment, believes Maleah's mom needs to be held accountable for her role in ignoring her daughter's abuse, and said Darion Vince isn't the only one who knew where Maleah's body was dumped. So that's very interesting. Again, so that means Quanell has had some information. He knows some things that are going to come out eventually when this case is tried. And so I think, like I say, the world will be staying tuned to see what happens with Brittany Bowens, if she's complicit in this case, because she's saying so much but still saying so little. They talk about the most thing that's being said is what you're not saying. So I think that's very important to watch for and see what happens as this case continues along. I do believe one other person who Quanell X said. Quanell said it's one of Vince's family members, and prosecutors know, so he shared that information. All I can do is what I've done. They have enough info to do what they've got to do. If they don't, they need to explain why. So it says that so far Vince hasn't been charged with murder. No one else is facing charge, but more people will know the name Maleah Davis. I think God wants to use Maleah to make life better for other children who suffer and are still suffering like Maleah was, Quanell X said. Kind of jump over here because I know people have asked too about the reward money. Again, like I said, I'm just trying to run through this pretty quickly. But basically, Quanell is probably not getting the money. He said anything that he does get, because the way it's broken up, he may still get some money, but it'll go to other services, if not, claims. There's no other tips that end up helping out. So it says a little less than, so the reward money from Maleah topped off at $27,500. Said a little less than half than $12,500 that came from Crime Stoppers for any information leading to an arrest. Of that, $5,000 was from Crime Stoppers themselves. The other $7,500 came from private donors, including Mayor Turner. To let you know, the whole city was behind this case, and it's, again, very sad. So what happens to the money now that Maleah's been found? Nothing. Community activist Quanell X got the location of Maleah's body after visiting Darion in jail, but it's against Crime Stoppers policy to give reward money to certain groups, which includes community activists, which I think is odd, and I don't know why, but if they're getting the clues, if they're getting I'm sure they have some reason behind it, but I think if they're getting the information, then whoever brings forth the information should get it, and maybe it can go further to help their cause so they can continue to push and get this information and get these things. But then a lot of times, maybe because community activists have issues with the police, and Crime Stoppers is a police organization, that maybe they're fueling their combatants, their enemies, or however you want to look at it. This is just me assuming. I never really thought about it. This is just kind of what I'm thinking off the head. If you have any idea, leave that in the comment section below. If you know why Crime Stoppers does not allow community activists, maybe you guys heard it somewhere, maybe you're more familiar, I would love to know that. But if after a year there are no tips, the $5,000 will go back to Crime Stoppers, and the donors of the $7,500 will be contacted. And they'll be given the option of having that money refunded or put towards other cases. As for the remainder of the reward money, police pledged $15,000 to find the little girl. That money came from members of Maleah's family, Chief Art Acevedo, and from other donors. But because collecting reward money is not something the police department normally does, they have no rules in place on who can get it, and they say it's still too early to say where the money is going. If given any reward money, Quanell X said he'll be donating it to charity. So that is commendable of him, if that is the case. And the last thing I want to share with you guys is that even though this sweet child was from Houston, you got to shout out to the people of Arkansas and people around the world who've shown concern, because there's been a lot of people who actually came into Houston to follow this story. That there's a memorial at exit 18 on Interstate 30 where they found the bag, and that there's a memorial for Maleah, and it's just good to share that love. It's for a sad reason, but I just kind of want to end on a more positive note. That, and I don't even know how positive that fucking is, really. It's just I want to end on a better note. Just more focused on the love that is coming from people. Could you imagine how great the world could be if we shared that kind of love with each other daily without having to have these tragedies? How much better would everything be for everyone, regardless of your background, your race, your belief, whatever it is. And that's why, here in the Den, I'll try to encourage everybody's welcome, whether we agree or disagree. It's about having an understanding. And I think if the world had a better understanding, that we could have better outcomes. But these days it's tough to get that. More of us are so focused on being selfish and about our own concerns that we don't do that anymore. And it's a couple of quotes from people who are who went by the memorial and were just placing, gifts and trinkets and things like that, balloons, flowers, stuffed animals. things like that. And so they had a memorial at 10 a.m. Saturday at the Exit 18 truck stop at Fulton, or will be Saturday. So it's good to see that love has been being poured out. But I say all of this to go back to my main thing. None of this stuff would be necessary if Brittany Bowens was a good mother. You know, I saw the interview, I want to say her name was Queen Cash Me Out, and she had shared that interview from Brittany Bowens. And I'll try to put the link in that description below too, so you can check that out. From 2015, where she received, like, I guess there was an anonymous donator who paid off a bunch of layaways at Walmart, right? And the thing is, you wonder, how did the news find Brittany Bowens? If it was anonymous, they just paid off a bunch of layaways. Did she reach out to the news, or did the news reach out to her? Because how do you find them? You don't know. It's not like the news was just sitting there and they caught somebody coming out of the Walmart. Hey, did you get a layaway? Oh, let's talk about it. Because they were at her house. It's not like they followed her all the way home. They would have interviewed her there on site at Walmart. So that tells me that this woman has attention-seeking behavior. That's why she's doing all these PR tours. That's why she's doing all these interviews. That's why she couldn't go without doing that live and getting all that attention that she was acting like she didn't want, but they didn't want to see her faking, but she sure did get excited about riding dick. I cannot get over that. All other stuff, when they asked her, when's the last time you talked to Maleah? When is all this? None of your business. It doesn't matter. You catch an attitude. But as soon as somebody starts talking about fucking, you know, you get all excited about that. And that's a prevalent behavior in certain communities. And we'll discuss that at another time. But I believe this woman has a severe attention-seeking behavior, because how else would the news know? And she got herself made up and all that other stuff to be on the news and just talk about it and have all the little stuff, the gifts out on the porch. And you saw mostly boys' toys, which was odd too. You know, even though Maleah was one, and I know, you know, still 1-year-olds have things that they need. But if you haven't seen that, I'll put the link up to that too also. But with that being said, I'm just leaving it at that. I don't care what anybody says. In my heart of hearts, I believe that Brittany Bowens is complicit. And what I mean by that is, even if she did not do it physically herself, and if she truly believes that anything else, that it wasn't abuse or whatever it may have been. I mean, we see so many stories all the time that these things happen. She knew she got in a fight with that man, but because he was taking care of things, as her sister said, that she didn't want to break it off. She didn't want to break off the engagement because he took care of her. That's not a mother who fights. That's not a mother who does whatever it is to take care of their kids. That's a mother who's letting some man come in and take care of the children. There's been a lot of misinformation in this case, but I'm kind of leaning to what the family's been saying about how he was taking care of her. The family even said that she said he was such a good man, and that, yeah, he may have been looking to get with someone else, but maybe she seemed like she could be a problematic person to deal with. So we'll find out more as this case goes along. I think that there was some rumors about Quanell said that he found the mistress in this case. And so there's a lot of stuff that could be going on, and we'll talk about it further. But again, you can catch the Den live every night, 10 p.m. Central, Monday through Friday. You can catch us 10 a.m. Central, you know. And shout out to everybody who's just, you know, been coming and participate, calling, leaving voicemails or texting, or just catching the show live and you know, sharing their thoughts. I appreciate each and every one of you for providing different insights and different perspectives when it comes to this case, and kind of open up my thought process with this. And so with that being said, I won't hold you no longer. The video's a little longer than I already planned, but you know, I thank you. I appreciate you. Nothing but gratitude for taking the time to watch the video. If you got this far, please hit that like button, subscribe if you're new. With that being said, y'all be cool like y'all be cool. RP, baby Maleah. And this is tough, and I think we're just scratching the surface. I think there's a lot more to come. So y'all stay tuned to this case and pay close attention. I'm Ed Honcho, and I'm out.